Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Juan Cristales here. One of the top three objections that I always get when it comes to construction and new building is that I don't have time. I don't have time to be at the job site. I have a full-time job. I have this other thing that I'm doing, whatever the case is. But here's what I'm gonna tell you. Right now, I'm not even in the same state. I'm in California right now, and this concrete slab is actually being poured in Texas. This got poured yesterday, which was Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. That's when that got poured. So today's June 4th, and so let me show you real quick kind of the updates of what we have. So I want you to understand that you don't necessarily have to be constantly in the job site, always there supervising and doing all this stuff. One, because there's professionals inside of the business. Number two, you have the backstop of inspectors. The city inspectors are not going to let these guys proceed and pour a slab or do whatever if they haven't done their inspections. Up to this point, we've had several inspections, okay? The first inspection that we've already had was going to be the form inspection. So you see these wooden pieces here. The survey company came out and basically drew a picture of where this property is actually going to be sitting. And so that's part of the inspection process. The city wants to see it. They were like, we want to make sure that you're not in an easement. We want to make sure that the property is going to be put in the correct location. So that's an inspection, right? Boom, that gets done. Before we even do any of the stuff that you see here, before we do any of these pipes, before we do any of these ditches, before we do any of this black tarp, before we do any of these cables, very first one. So you can't mess that up. I mean, you could potentially, the city would have to be egregious in their inspection process to like mess that up. But what I'm saying is that that's the first inspection. The second inspection is going to be the plumbing ground. All these pipes that are here, all the wastewater that connects here, and you see them over here on the back end. That is another inspection. The inspector basically says, okay, master plumber people, come out. We have to inspect your work. And what they do is make sure that there's water inside these pipes and that they're not leaking any water on the way out to the wastewater, okay? Because that's going to be all the wastewater. We don't want wastewater or any kind of water basically coming out underneath the foundation. So that's the second inspection, right? Now, after that's done, the third inspection is going to be the footing. So what the inspector will come out and see is they're going to measure the distance between the trenches here, the depth of the trenches themselves, how wide they are here. They're looking for the cables. They're looking for, where are they spaced evenly? They're making sure that they're all seated on these little plastic things here. But you don't need to know all that stuff because the city's the one who's going to be doing that inspection. They're making sure that there's some rebar here, so on and so forth, okay? So those are three inspections before we even get to the concrete stage. So you as a first-time builder don't really know how to do your stuff, don't know how to do much of this stuff because it's your first time. You have a great backstop, which is the city inspectors who all come together and all make sure that these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's the big benefit of doing this stuff. And this is why I'm not concerned about being in another state while all this stuff is happening. So let's move on forward and let me show you a little bit more. So as you can see here, these guys are pouring. They've already started pouring the back area and they're starting to move forward. From the perspective of the person taking the picture, you can see here, this is a wooden form, and then these are the hydraulic lifts to kind of stabilize the truck while they're moving all this concrete out into onto the slab. So that's pretty cool. Moving on. They're almost pretty much finished here. As you can see, these guys are starting to polish off the top of the concrete, making it look nice and smooth. They use this machine here. It looks like a big, massive fan. Again, you don't need to know this stuff, but I'm just explaining to you what we're seeing in these pictures is that they're using this big, massive fan to level everything out, make sure that there's nothing crazy. It's already holding the weight of this guy. It is so hot in Texas that it does not take very long for this concrete, which is 3,000 PSI, 3,000 pounds per square inch that it can hold. They're very quick, and this guy's already standing on it. It just got poured that morning. Now, this picture is actually from today. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to share this with you guys, and it's important for you guys to understand this, is that the forms have been removed. All the wooden pieces that were here on the edge have been taken off, and the reason we do that right away the day after is because we have to do something with these cables. Now, this is part of the process. I'm going to show you guys. It's very, very simple. It's just another step. And all this is that something that we pay for, it's called a partial stress. So in this scenario, we have these post-tension cables that we use, right? And so they get tension in this direction to kind of make the foundation stronger and sturdier. And again, this is a one-story structure, okay? We're not going anything crazy. We're not doing 3 stories or anything crazy like that. So it's a very basic, simple foundation.
There's a rock over there.
Hey, everybody. Judah wants to say hello. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hi.
Do you know where we are, Judah?
At the California.
That's right. We're at the California. So very, very exciting. Let me talk to these guys about this foundation, okay? You want to be in the video or no?
Why is that whole square is around right there? And why is that metal piece apart?
Yeah. So we do something called...
It's that black thing that connects this thing, so it doesn't make it, but the rock is going to connect it.
That's right. Those cables are all connected inside of the concrete.
Yeah, on inside.
That's right. They're on the inside of the concrete. All right. Let me explain it to these guys, okay?
Okay.
All right. So here's what we got, guys. We're going to do something called a partial stress. We pay for this. It's an extra $220.
Daddy, what's a partial stress?
A partial stress is they come out and they stress the cables in the direction that they're going about 25% of the full tension that is supposed to be done.
That way?
Correct, yes, they do it that way. And the reason they do that is to minimize the amount of surface cracks that you get on the concrete, okay? So that's the big benefit of doing that. Want to take a break?
Don't take a break.
Now, it's a personal preference thing if you want to do the partial stress or not, but I like paying for it because it really does help with the hairline cracks that you see on top of the foundation. It doesn't make the foundation necessarily stronger, but it does kind of help solidify it before it starts really, really drying. So now, this has to be done within 48 hours of pouring the concrete, which is why we need to remove the forms right away. That's one of the biggest reason why we do it. So partial stress, 25%. Now, here we are. The foundation guys have done their work. And again, this is not something you need to know, but that's what they do. You see here, the distance here is wider than the distance here. And that's so that the rainwater can go away from the property when it does rain. Again, not something you necessarily know per se, but this is the foundation guys who are being inspected, who know that this is part of their job and what they need to be doing, along with putting in the anchor bolts. You see the anchor bolts here? That's where they're going to be connected to the actual structure itself. Very simple stuff, guys. Nothing too crazy. Here's another just picture of what the foundation looks like. And then we're going to be reusing all this material here because here, as you can see on the far left-hand corner, we have a bunch of dirt that's been cleared out, mostly because we're putting in fill dirt over here on this one for another form that we're going to be doing for another foundation. And it's the exact same structure. Aesthetically, it's going to be a little bit different, maybe a different color or something like that, but for the most part, the interior and everything else is going to be the same footprint, but it's going to be a little bit different in terms of like the finishes and stuff like that. So everything's looking good. I got some pictures of you guys from the trip. We took a road trip out. This is in Arizona. These are my kids. We stopped at a McDonald's. They wanted to get some ice cream and stuff like that. So we did that. Here's my other kid. There's Diana and Judah, the baby. And then that's the one that was just on the video right here. There we are in New Mexico. There's Jonah by the flowers. And then the big boulders in Arizona. See, this is crazy. Now we're in California with all the windmill farms, and then now here with the house, they wanted to buy some passion fruit and try that out. So they finished it up. He was just showing me. So very cool, guys. Again, you can do all this stuff, guys. It doesn't have to be that you need to be constantly at the job site, supervising, ensuring this stuff gets done. I've done all this over text messages and phone calls and, video, whatever you need to get done. If that's the case that you need to do, it's not that complicated. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And that's really what I advocate. Don't try to be recreating every house every single time. I used to think that HGTV, right, had sold me the lie that every house had to be unique. Every house had to have a special, beautiful backsplash. And every house had to have a special, beautiful layout of some sort. No, I want to be building the same typical structure over and over and over again just to make it easy. The numbers don't change. It's that quick, and you can make much faster decisions whenever it comes to, finishing stuff out. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.